So I get a lot of people write to me and ask me, how do I create the lift up section here through the door that lifts up away from the rest of the track without any derailments or any problems, and how does the power keep the track alive? So I'm going to answer all those questions in this very short video on a little test piece, so I can demonstrate how I do it and how I add the PCB boards underneath the tracks to keep them in the right place when I'm lifting up and down the board. So let's go and have a look and see how it's all done. Okay, so a lot of you guys have plans and building layouts with something like what I've got, the door section where the door hinge comes up, create an access area, or you might want this to be the actual flap up where it comes up. So I'm going to show you how I lay the track and how I add a PCB board, something like this underneath the track, and actually I'll do it in this small section. You add something like that underneath the track and you tack the track to that, and you then make sure that's in place, and that gives you a nice rigid area. So when you lift up the flap, whichever way, whether it be this way or segregates the track that way, this will give you the alignment in your track bed. First thing I will explain before I go any further, you would have your hinges. If you was doing a lift up section, it'd be best to have the hinges on the top. If you've got the hinges on the top, so if that was a bit of board, you'll find as that board lifts up, it naturally lifts up slightly, and therefore it wouldn't catch the track anyway. So my best advice is, if you've got a lift up section like this, put the hinges, like obviously these are just plastic hard, but you would put brass hinges on the top, and they would be like that to give you that lift. Now for this is just a demonstration, and this is purely to show you how I do the track. Okay, so let's put the track in place and cut the track. And I've actually gone ahead and taken off a couple of these bits there. So I'm just going to do the same on the other side, and I'll probably do about the same. Probably going to about there. So just snip underneath and removing that tiny proportion of the sleepers. So that gives you the alignment there and the rails, so I know that they'll actually line up if I want to use that as before I go too wide. So with that in place, I now need to add some PCB board. Now I've actually got a couple of bits prepared. You can buy any kind, electronics shops, anything like that. There's a lot of online retailers selling it. Just search PC board. This one you've got a coating on. You can take that back with sandpaper and you get back to the copper plates. You will need to score a line down the middle to separate the continuity between the two, because you want it to be two different feeds. These are good, but you'll have to join up literally a few of them blocks either side. You literally need to join them up however you want to do that. That could be a little bit fiddly, so I would suggest going for something more solid, just quick and easy. So with that, we'll need to add this block underneath there, and we'll solder that into position. So let's move that out of the way. Again, we need to score a line down the middle on this one, and that's just to break the two feeds. It should be alright. Now it should be alright. Just get some sandpaper to make sure that I've got clean that up a little bit. Now with your, I'll use a screwdriver to get that on there. Okay, so with your flux, you need quite a coating on there, so stick it on there, and again on there, just inside there. You have to wash this all off afterwards, so soapy water once you've done this. And I'm going to put some on the board itself. That should coat that. That's a good start. I'm going to use this side because it's a little bit smoother. Now I don't want it all the way flushed down, because otherwise it will be out of alignment. So I'm going to put a little weight on the end of there, hold that down, and that gives a nice little drop. That's about where we want it. Soldering iron's on. Need a good soldering iron. Now I'm just going to add a tack. Let's get that nice and tin before we go any further. That will help immensely. We didn't do that, did we? So tin that. That's perfect. And then just going to do a little bit on the side down there, and again on there. That will help. Okay. And then line it all back up. We should be successful this time. Look at that, straight in. I'm going to do this in a line. That's that one. Just bring it down a little bit. That's nice. That's good. And do the other side. Bring that round that way. You can see there's a little bit of a gap there. We want that bit of a gap because otherwise it will be too low down to the track bed and it won't quite sit properly on the hinge. So that's it. Spread that around there. This can be tidied up afterwards with a Dremel. That's nice. There we go. Let's bit that. That's cool. So there we go. That's got it in there. I'm going to do just a little bit inside down there. And that bit there. There we go. Right, so what I'm going to do is just tidy these up at this end and then do the other end, and then I'm going to drill some holes so we can actually pin that to our area ready for the other one. Okay, so we're going to do this as a lift up section, so this is going to be that bit there. So I'm going to tidy these up, do one of these on this bit, and then we'll have a look about tacking it down. Okay, so we've cut the tracks. I've now soldered both the PC boards to both ends, and we've now got our drop section of the layout, our mock-up piece. So I can now add the two tracks to the board and align them up. Now we're doing this as if it's a lift-up section like this, so that would be that sort of way. So you would, but this would be flush with your edge. It's very important you get that there, and then obviously you could have that just slightly like there. Obviously there wouldn't be so much of a gap. You could actually have this pretty much as close to 1 or 2 mil, and I would allow for some sort of expansion, but once you've got this fixed, expansion will probably go that way, I would suggest. So make sure you've got sleeper rail joiner spacing that they can move around. So from this point onwards, that's going to be enough to that. We need to create some holes in these little plates, so let's do that. Same there. Right, that's that. Take the drill bit out because I don't want to snap it. Put that away. Alright, so there we have our two boards with the holes in, ready to go down. Now, so what we would do at this point, we would actually align that on your layout. So where you had your hole, if you would then connect all your track together at this point, make sure you fit this in, so you can slide that end in there, slide that end in there, and then make sure that that aligns. And if you need any adjustments, you can adjust it out the back end of the track as opposed to all the work you've just done. So you make sure that lines up, and that would be the easiest solution for that. That's what I did on mine. So for this one, we'll actually put a track pin in there, and we'll use no, I use my pliers. This is how I normally put them in. I hold them down and very gently from near the base of the track pin, because if you bang them from the top they just bend over. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way in because there's only a thin bit of board, so I'm actually going to bend the pin over when I get to a certain point. I'm going to do this on here, lining up there. Okay, and I'm going to bend that over, cheating a little bit, which I wouldn't advise you to do. I'm just doing it because it's I want to run the wagon up and it won't hit it. So that's our first one in place. I would then put some little pins, track pins in there. Again, that stabilizes the motion on this bit here. Get a few of them out. We do one on the other side. So bent those pliers just nicely pushes them in without all that banging and tapping. And I'm going to bend these over. You would actually push them flush all the way through, but I am not going to do that. I'm just going to do it like that, and that's all I'm going to do on this. I would do all four as recommended, and already that's nice and stable where it is. So that would be your lift up section for this side, and that would be that part. Even with that there, I haven't even tacked this bit down. You can see that is just running like that, so there's no problems there. And if you've got DC feed on both these, that the train will just literally drive straight through. There'll be like an expansion joint, so that works anyway. So let's add this one. I'm going to move this slightly forward and then tack this one in. So just line it up a bit. So that's that one. And before I tack this one in, I've got a little bit of lateral movement on there. I will just give that a test. That seems to be okay. Again, do some good testing before you actually commit to get everything in place. So that really is your lift out section and your wagon, your test. That goes up there. As you can see, that's nice. You got your, that's how mine's done, and then obviously that is your lift out section there, which is your road. And that's it really. It's as easy as that. Quite simple, straightforward. And that's your flap. Even with this on plastic card, that aligns quite quickly and quite nicely. Where you would use a brass hinge to do that, so it is quite a stable thing. And there you go, that's how you do it, simple as. So I'll just show you one more time on the layout what that looks like, and I think that will conclude. It's adding your drawbridge section, your lift out section to your layout. So as you can see on my layout, you can see the rails are actually quite close together there, and you'd think that that would overlap and cause a problem. Because the hinges are here, the boards lift up out the way, and there is like a sort of 3mm gap, and they lift over each of the rails, so there's not any problems. I don't know if I can demonstrate for you. If you keep your eye on that, I shall lift that out. You see how they pull away from each other, okay, so they don't actually push onto each other, they pull away, and that's very important if you're doing a lift out section. Just make sure that you do the hinges on the top. As I keep mentioning, it is very important, because I know someone will say to me, Gary, you can't put the hinges on the bottom, they need to be on the top. Okay, so just drop down underneath the baseboard. Now this bit here is the hinge section. So let's get out of focus, and you can just see this bit here is the bus cable that comes underneath. I'll just focus that, and you can just see the bus cable that comes down here round underneath. It's not very clear, but I can sort of show you. And it comes to this section here, and then you can see here I've actually got a plug which is a Z kind of arrangement. It's 3 pins, and this is used for connecting LED lighting, strip lighting, that kind of thing. They're not cheap, and they're 20 amps rated, but they are great little plugs because you can only plug them in one particular way. You can't really go wrong with them. And you can see I've just literally unplug it, and that will come apart. You can find them online. They're not the easiest things to find, but it works for me. You can use any kind of plug that's suitable for around about 20 amps, anything from 5 amps to 20 amps, that kind of thing, because that's the sort of ratio of power that's going through this particular cable. So that's my bus cable, and it literally links up from there all the way through. So this is now one continuous feed all the way through, and then if I want to separate it, I just unlink that, and then this bit here, as you see just up there, just here, if I just will show you, that is the bit that actually lifts out, and I've got these pegs that keep it in alignment underneath, and there's some dowels that all link up and sort of pin into each other, so it keeps the true alignment of the track. So let's go back to the top of the layout. Again, that is the section where I just actually done, which I've just shown you on the test piece, and again I've just added that, and you can see it just goes in nicely, and I don't have any problems with power because this section is powered all the way through anyway. And there you go, that is how to wire up your layout and add the track to a door section and lift out section.